if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to say, look, I'm going to control myself. I'm going to figure out how to get myself to do what I need to do on a consistent basis at a high enough level to be successful, or I'm going to have to go to work for somebody who will make me work that hard, will make me be worth something to a company. And so, am I going to work for myself and make myself grow and have those changes flow right into my family, my world, or am I going to work for somebody else on a salary and help them build their world? Let's talk about winning and transformation. And you can think of this as a guide to winning transformation through high performance living. And let's focus to get things started on who are the people out there make things happen in the world. Who are the movers and shakers? Who are the people that seem to matter more than most in terms of setting the pace, setting the direction, making the decisions inside every company, every political structure, who runs, they run and they get elected, they run things, they start companies, they take leadership positions when problems arrive. They're the ones who get up there and come up with the solutions. Who are the movers and shakers? Well, they're the winners, they're the people you can't get in that thing if you can't make things happen actually in your own life. And so they're people that know how to make things happen in their own life. And as a result, they can go out there and make things happen outside of their own life. In other words, they get an idea, they want to move up, they want to do this, that, or the other. They want something for their family, want something for their house, a car, savings. They see an area of need or whatever weakness, and they get a plan and they go make it happen. And so these are the winners. These are the people who are moving forward all the time. If you wonder if you're a winner or not, or you wonder who the winners are, they're the people, because I get asked this question all the time. What's a winner? What's winning all about? Well, it's kind of obvious, folks. Winning or losing. Winning is overcoming. Losing is getting beat and staying beat. Winners lose. They just don't stay beat. They bounce back. And so who are these people? Who are these? Well, you've got some are dabblers, some are doers, and some are dominators. And so they come in all shapes and sizes, but you know them by the fact that they get things done sooner or later, one way or the other. You don't know by what they say, because they'll sound like everybody else, complaining, grumbling, this, that, and the other. Look at their actions, because they don't stay defeated long. They don't stay upset as long as other people, because immediately they use that frustration of getting beat, or when they see things that are wrong, need to be beat, they use that frustration to move ahead. And so that's how you tell, who's a winner and a loser, and who's worth following, basically, or worth listening to. And so what you have in every area of life, I mean, is, the Pareto Principle is basically indisputable in terms of concept, in terms of exactly, of course, it's never going to be exactly right. But the deal is that you got the 80-20 rule. Everybody knows the 80-20 rule. It's the Pareto Principle. It's that 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Now, the problem with that, if you're in the 80%, is the 20% will wind up making probably $20 or more for every dollar the people on the bottom make. And the people beyond them, that run, who do the 20% report to and take their direction from? Well, that's the 20% of the 20%, and that's the 4%. The people at the top, the center of the flywheel, the people at the top of every organization. They set the tone, direction, but you have 20% that actually get things done. Now, of that 4%, about half of them, 1 to 2%, are the dominators. They're the people in charge, and they'll make about $100 at least, sometimes 1,000, sometimes $10,000 more than the people on the bottom 80%, and they're worth it, because without them, you don't have an army on a mission accomplishing things. You have a mob just kind of working and mealy mouthing around in circles. And so you got to have the direction. And, there's a price to work your way up the ladder, to stay on top. A lot of people want to be on top. And, they're usually they're worth it. And so it's a matter of, where do you want to be? You want to be in the 80%? We can debate this crap all day long, but where do you want to be? Is it fair? This, that, the other. No, it's the way it is. And so you survive in life by adapting to the way it is. And so, the architects, they call it the architects of impact, the 1 to 2% who run the show. Those are the people on top. And so, there's all kind of different levels of winners. Where do you want to be? And the people at the top, the 1 to 2 percenters, they're the ones who take the biggest moves, and they take the biggest risks. They pull the most weight. They move markets. They raise standards. They push boundaries. They stretch. They come up with ideas because, they don't accept the status quo, because they've decided they're not here to speculate. They're here to win. And so that brings us to what makes them different. The difference inside them is their motivation level. Low motivation, the lower motivated people, needs the outside push. We were talking about this yesterday amongst ourselves. And this has come up over the years. The idea is like, discipline. We all have trouble getting ourselves to do things at different times. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to say, look, I'm going to get myself, I'm going to control myself. I'm going to figure out how to get myself to do what I need to do on a consistent basis at a high enough level to be successful, or I'm going to have to go to work for somebody who will make me work that hard, will make me be worth something to a company. And so, am I going to work for myself and make myself grow, have those changes flow right into my family, my world, or am I going to work for somebody else on a salary and help them build their world? So that's the question. And so, if you have lower motivation, you need that outside push. And so sometimes people have higher motivation in their recreational areas, and other projects, not in their career. And so they may not be low motivated in everything, but they're low motivated in making money. And so the idea is, where your motivation is in your career determines what kind of position you can hold. And so if you're low motivated, you're going to need the outside push. Mid-level motivation will respond to structure and accountability. You hold when the lower motivated people, they can't seem to remember uh, anything. You announce it, and a new program, and they go later. When they blow it, they come back to you and say, "Oh, were you talking about me?" Oh, were you talking about this week? It's kind of like cousin Vinny, in front of the judge when he told him to show up wearing a suit. And he said, "Oh, you were serious about that?" And so the thing is that, the low motivated people never think you're serious about it when you lay down the law, or when you say, this is what we stand for. These are our values. This is what we're going to get done. These are our level. But the mid-level people, they have their eye, they're more aware. They got a little bit more motivation to move up. They think about it, and they realize their performance matters. And so they're going to respond to structure and accountability. They don't have enough yet to put that into their own self, because, maybe it could be their trainees. Could be they haven't been in the industry or the company that long. And so they don't really know how to do the structure and the accountability. And that needs to be provided for them to excel. And so that's the mid-level motivation. But then the high performers are already winning. They just need, a high performer just needs the right ecosystem. It's like a big tree, weeds, bushes, small trees, big trees, they all need sunshine. They need some fertilizer, to come in from different source. They need to get nutrition out of the soil. And, they need sunlight and water, basically sunlight, water, and then they need nutrition they get from the soil. And so even if you're a giant leader, it's like, who motivates the motivator? They're humans. Just because they're highly motivated, high achievers, this and that doesn't mean. I mean, we'll talk about this more later, but every high achiever, just about every high achiever out there has a coach or has advisors, has people that they can talk to, they can bounce ideas on, that can keep them on track, they can get fresh input because they need it. It's just like the highest tree in the forest, the 100-foot tall oak tree has still got to have sun and it's still got to have roots, deep root system. This is why, and it's got to have the rain. And so what happens is it's that competition. The top people need the competition and that ecosystem thing because like if you're the biggest tree you're got the pressure to keep on growing, otherwise the other trees around you will grow above you and they're going to get the moisture, they're going to get the sunlight, and you're going to be left behind. So believe it or not, even in the forest there's a competition among the biggest trees to keep growing the most because they don't want to die and they want to still keep getting the things they need, and their roots are going to be deeper than the other trees. So, even the most motivated high performers need the right environment to where they can get the things they need to continue to grow. They got the same problem we do, and so where should they go for that input? Well, winners need elite environments, and they should not be wait. They obviously can't waste their time with average advice from average people. They need mentorship from proven people with proven track records. They case studies. They're always reading and listening to and asking about case studies. They don't work. Cliches are great to get started. It's like programming, it's like the fundamentals in your mind, basic things. But you got to go beyond the cliches and the fundamentals, foundational stuff to elite performance. And that's where case studies, talking again and again and again to high performers, see how they did it, how they think, why they chose this way, how they went through the transformation for themselves personally, for themselves in their company, and for themselves in their industry. And so, hearing those case studies, what you pick up is real tactics. It allows you to implement, real step by step things. Ideas are a dime a dozen. The people who use them are priceless. And what you do get to hear from the people who have used these ideas, and they've got in the process, they've not only become priceless themselves, but they've created priceless transformations, not only in themselves, but in their community, in their company, and in their industries. And so those are, that's what the highly motivated people aspire to be. Maybe you don't aspire to do that, but that's where the greatest rewards, the greatest satisfaction, the greatest enjoyment really is, because when you're doing things at the highest level, not easy, it takes a bigger bite out of you, but that's what the top is all about. So this is all about, we talked about winning, we talked about transformation, how you get there, and getting from where you are to where you want to be. See, it's not by luck, it's by design. And on my, so we set the stage there, and think about yourself. Where are you? I hear your comments. You see if you agree with this. You think I'm right? You think I'm wrong? Have I oversimplified things? We all learn from feedback. And let me just give you a little lecture here or a little insight. Listening to YouTube videos is not going to create transformation for you. Much. You've got to respond. And it's the people who make comments, people who pick up ideas and they add them into their flow of life, into their patterns, that wind up getting the benefit. It's like, is it just another movie you're going to watch, a stream on TV, another book you're going to read, and, fiction? That's why I don't like fiction. I rarely get ideas out of fiction that I can go in and apply to my life and make my life better. I can be entertained, mindless, that's okay. That's great. But I'm looking for things, what makes my life enjoyable is when you can improve and then you can see the improvement. It's like your life is like a garden. You get a new plant, you get you find out from some other gardener they've got they've got some plants in their garden that you've never seen before, flowers you've never seen before. You get excited. I like those colors. How quick does it take to grow? Can I get some of those seeds? I want that in my backyard. And so it's exciting to get those seeds, put them in your backyard, your garden, and then bring them along step by step, and then have that same result show up in your garden. And that's the way it is about winning and being exposed, going through that transformation. Just like you're going to transform your garden, you're going to transform your life with ideas. And so that's what we've talked about. You're not going to do it if you don't have the motivation. And basically, I work with the most motivated people because it's the most fun for me and the most exciting and the most rewarding. But and we need more of those. We're always going to have people with average motivation. We're always going to have oceans of people with mediocre motivation. The reason I talk and I do the things I do is to inspire the people who have the monster motivation and the desire to do great things, because we need, in the world, we need more of those. That's what we don't have. People at the top, it's crowded at the bottom. There's plenty of room at the top. And so that's what we need. And going to the top is a transformation that can happen for you. But, it's a process skill. You have to put yourself through the paces like we all have. And, anyway, we'll talk more about that later. So if we're talking about winning, we're talking about transformation. Let's end up here talking about what it takes to move from the middle of the pack to the top. Here's the price you're going to pay. You're going to go through time. It's going to take time. And what happens is during that time, you're going to outwork them. You're going to put more hours, quantity of time. The thing is, hard work is the great equalizer. It's not something you resent. It's how you get ahead. And so it doesn't matter what kind of advantages they have, what other people think, other people's opinion of them versus you, doesn't matter. If you outwork them, that is the great equalizer. The other thing is energy. You show up when others don't. You don't just go through the motions. You go up, like if you get in the ring with Mike Tyson, you don't go like, oh, stop, Mike. Stop that. No, if you're going to get in the ring with you play patty cake with Mike Tyson, you're going to knock your head off. You got to go in with your defenses and everything, look for your opening. And when you get a chance to throw your punch, you better throw it with all you got, because you might not get another shot. And so that's the thing, that people who rise up the ladder, when opportunities come, they not only volunteer, I'll do that, I'll get involved. They get in with, they jump in with both feet, everything they've got. They asking questions. What's the best way? How's this been done before? What can we do to make this special? They show up with energy when other people don't. And so that causes their execution to be more precise, because they're thinking about it. They're putting, hard work, a lot of enthusiasm, but because they're thinking about it, they're precise. They're not just going around, working around and, energetically like a whirlwind, like a ice skater spinning on the ice. No, they've got purpose. They got precision. They're doing it for a point. They're doing it for a result. And the risk is, we never know on any of these things how it's going to pay off. So you're taking a risk at all times, and you're betting. It's like you're in a game, and you bet everything you've got on this thing, but you can control the results to a large extent. And the thing about betting is, you're not betting on the way some of the cards that a dealer throws at you are just random. This time you're taking a risk, but you're betting on yourself. And so that's a much better. See, you can control yourself a whole lot more than you can a random deck of cards with somebody else dealing them. So you're taking a risk, you're putting the energy and effort and time in, but the risk is a controlled, precise type risk for a purpose. And the worst case is you're going to get experience, you're going to get information, you're going to make contacts, you're going to improve yourself for whatever comes on down the road, regardless. So anyway, this is about transformation. It's winning and it's transformation. It's all about getting from where you are to where you want to be, not by luck, but by design.